Well, Gary, um, I'm gonna do this. Um, all right. So, um, Gary, you take yourself to be playing the serious game, right? And the rest of us are glib. See, I think it's glib to do things like call me a pantheist. What it is that I believe that whatever this life thing is, it goes down to the physics. There's elements of it in the physics. What else could it come from? It's a reductionist argument. Any materialist, a non-woo-woo person would have to believe that, or something like it. And you mischaracterize it, right? And you do that on and on and on. You say, I believe things I don't believe, right? So you say it's a really important game, so you have to fight hard. That's fine. Didn't complain about that. I was asking you to admit that I'm being honest about my opinion. Stop calling me dishonest about my opinion. I'm not trying to play a word game. I'm defining these words in good faith. I believe they're technically accurate and that an intelligent person of your intelligence could understand them. I could be wrong. Maybe you're not intelligent enough. But I know they're comprehensible and technically detailed, and you don't seem to have learned them. So I say that's lazy. And since you have your own brand new words, and you expect us to accept them as well defined, which I don't think so, but I am willing to accept them anyway, because when you're coining terms, it's a development process. So I'm just asking you to admit that I am honestly presenting the terms that I believe are useful, and also to not misstate my position. Um, I do not think that you believe the game is more serious than me. You can point to a joke with a grain of truth in it about the life when you said the billion years. It's obvious I knew your whole defense was silly. Obviously, you could tell it was a joke. And you said, oh, but that's being glib. And then you insult people in glib ways all the time. And that, I think, is fine. It's just a joke. It's not okay, the glib part where you're taking facts not seriously. Or, for example, you say that, you can't work with me on things that we agree on even because the other disagreements are just too big. That's glib. Saying that we will not work on something we both agree is good because of other things that we aren't going to work on together. I guess since I won't help you on antinatalism, it's not worth working together on IRV or Stop and Trump or anything else. Um, that's glib. You're not taking, you say something like IRV is important, but you're not taking it seriously enough. But we get to worse things. Your whole claim of superiority is a big joke. Moral superiority. Antinatalism is likely a pipe dream, right? And at best, it's a long-term idea. There's people suffering in the world right now, Gary. You use this idea as a pipe dream, not as a long-term plan, but as a pipe dream that evidently enables you to have attitudes that prolong the suffering of other people, right? So you on your high mountain, that's what antinatalism as a concept is for you. It's a ladder that you climb up on that mountain where you don't have to do anything but look out at the suffering and go, I said it was all bad, therefore here I am at the top of the mountain. So, I wasn't asking you to respect a friendship. I believe you should treat people you discuss things with an ethics that actually goes beyond friendship. You can get away more with a friend, actually. I'm just asking you to admit, if you're going to talk to me, that I'm honestly trying to present terms, and yeah, they're technical. And if I'm wrong, fine, I want you to call me on that. I want to have that one at a time detailed thing. You just want to have it on, your words, with your new words. And also, we can't really pick at your definition and to try to make it more clear, because that's just doubting you. And you know, it's obviously already clear and proven. Your whole system is obviously just intuitive and great, and everybody could see that it was perfect, and yet you're still working on it, changing it. But I'm talking to you for all these years when it's in this raw state, which it still is, still being worked on, which is great, that's fine. But then you act like it's this unchanging thing. Why am I always questioning you on it? And how is it useful to talk to me when my questions help generate answers? You come up with answers for it. In the case of the science stuff, totally bullshit, crazy answers. But you think that you're doing something there, and it's from having a backboard. You don't know what the use of it is. I'm talking to somebody, that's not going to threaten you in any way. Well, you ought to be able to figure that out. So I'm not glib about it in general, or about life, or about anything. The only thing can say that about, and that I am helping to kill the babies, just like Hillary, is that my position in antinatalism, which is pro-choice. It's a pro-choice position. I believe it's personal choice. And that means I'm the most terrible person in the world, because you have this ladder where you climb to the top of the hill and say, look, there's really only one bad thing, and that is approving of people having children. That way, me ignoring misery in the world, which, yeah, I'm going to back that up in a minute. You get to ignore that. And I put it in the title, haven't I? Your policy on immigration, on refugees in particular. There's people in countries that are at war, which means, exponential rape and mayhem. And they could be rescued from that war for relatively little, and just allowing into this country. We don't even give them any of the unused land. They just have to come over here, and we give them a landing pad, and then they just join the society, and that would reduce their suffering in almost every case, except for the ones that would get hit by a bus and, individual bad luck. It would just pretty much unequivocally make their situation better. And they're suffering right now, these things you like to rail about privately in your wealthy Inmendham village and villa, right? That you like to wail about, but you don't want anywhere near you. So that's how much you're willing to care about that stuff on your high and mighty horse. But I don't eat meat, you would say. Well, you have some positive sides. You don't eat meat. You don't say uncaring things about other people, just the people that you meet you do. You do that all the time. But you show your sympathies in words. But having the position that refugees come over here, nobody would be asking you to help them. There's people that would help. There's systems could be set up. No, you're not into that. That's how much you care about real suffering in the here and now. You want to pretend there's this antinatalism solution. To oppose that solution is to be the cause of everything bad. And to be for that solution is to be absolved of everything bad. And therefore, if somebody's really suffering, you can turn right around on your little two-face, and you can look at me and say, I'm a pie-in-the-sky liberal. My unrealism about immigration is why we're going to have Hitler, so I'm even worse. Your logic is so obviously self-serving, right? And I think most people see that. even your fans, and that your fans are maybe, you know, some of them are, um, you know, just okay with that. Maybe it's a positive for some of them, some minority even. You say that you're so strong-willed about saving the people and there's just no middle ground, but then there is, because when it comes to refugees, you're like, well, fuck them. You can't have that philosophy because people just won't put up with it. But really, it's you that won't put up with it. That's why you feel that way. If you disagreed with the rest of the American public, you wouldn't be running to them for support about how unrealistic it was. You'd just be saying they're stupid. There's plenty of examples where you do that. But you choose in this case to not have sympathy enough for their suffering to just let them come over here to the land we stole. Fair and square by the old rules, fine. Low-key inappropriate. But basically, we took it and we got it, and there's empty parts of it. But they can't come over here, and that's all we'd have to do to help address their suffering. But you want to act like I'm the cause of suffering because of your esoteric view, this thing called antinatalism. We know people have a sex drive. If everybody tried to stop having kids, we don't know that the sex drive doesn't amount to some percentage of people that just couldn't hack it and couldn't use the condom and would try to have kids, right? In a society that where people were honestly trying to be that way, just like when people were Christians and they were trying not to cheat on each other, even the ones that were trying to not cheat and fornicate and all the stuff they weren't supposed to do did it. Of course, there were plenty of people that never intended to follow those rules. They just pretended. And you said you can't stand idealists and they won't compromise. Me, I'm all into compromise. That's my ability to talk to you has to do with, that's my main desire. When I was political blogging as a liberal, I tried to work with conservatives because I think you need a triangle to have a center of it, the triangle, to have some balance, And I say triangle because two sides of the teeter-totter isn't even enough. You really want, a whole round table of different perspectives around which to balance your shared system, okay? And it's really ideologues, like you just described, where you're saying, oh, it's just a matter of you want to torture people. I can't work with you on things we agree on because you're so terrible of a person. Right before you spend 20 minutes talking to Chris Anderson, which I think is okay, but you also spent, what, an hour and a half just today to Brett Keane. I'm glib. You spend your time on Brett Keane, and I'm glib. You don't see any reason to value our conversations that you still take part in over all these years. But I don't have time to spend with Brett Keane in Inmendham. Okay, you do. Okay, you need to do a reality check. Because when you're talking to Brett Keane, you feel superior, it doesn't mean it rises very high, does it? Okay. No, it obviously doesn't. It's the ideologues like you that won't compromise. So yeah, I am putting on you. It is your fault. I am willing to be and want to be friendly, and I'm going to be, in the sense of at least calm. And I'm not going to undercut any more than I ever do the things that I, still kind of like about you or find like watching your videos or any of the stuff. All of that's my predilections is, still unilateral. But it's certainly true that you're the ideologue. You describe that. You can't compromise on a thing. It's like you're not going to go build a playground because somebody disagrees with you on antinatalism. You're not going to work with someone on IRV, make an IRV website or something, videos in favor of it or whatever now that it's spreading, because somebody doesn't agree with you on this hypothetical red button. That part obviously is a pipe dream, and so that's, yeah, obviously you're using that as a philosophical crutch so that you don't have to do those things. It's easier to sit here at home and talk to Brett Keane and make fun of him, and complain about how rude it is to belch in a video when you call people liars that aren't lying to you. You really mean they're wrong in your opinion, and you're worried about belches because you'd like to just have antinatalism. You can make antinatalism videos, and you don't even have to make those other kind of videos too much. But you'll still go back to science, another totally pointless contribution, if ever there was one, when in terms of the particulars of what you're presenting. And again, why? Why would you do that? You don't have time for help in actual suffering in the real world, like Syrian refugees. You're only keeping me around because I'm an old trash can that you're used to. That's funny stuff. But you got a couple hours to watch Brett Keane videos and respond to him. And I'm glib. Yeah, sometimes I might make a glib joke that, you got to laugh at the harshness of life. You're actually glib. Your actual actions are glib, right? You'll go, you're pantheist and stuff to me, and then you're going like, ooh, very careful with Brett Keane. Brett, let me answer your questions very carefully. It's reality. You should face it. You need a head check, my friend. Oh, that's right. We're not friends. I can accept that. Many people I've met in real life are not my friends. New language, you're doing it, right? I'm not actually doing it. The concept of locality and realism are 100 years old, and they're very technical. You say, well, they're not technical. Well, you have not yet learned the terms. So you say it's not explicit. And they're vague. No, you don't even know, as far as I know, because you won't repeat it or listen to it till the end of a sentence. So there's no reason to think you understand it. So you're saying all these things about it, but since you don't know what it is, it's obviously more like, well, it can't be over your head, but because you're like, I don't like the shadow that's casting, you're worried. You don't want to acknowledge and find out, oh, it does say something about my system. Which, of course, it would, in the sense that your answer, like I said, you could reject the definition. You won't even learn it. That's lazy, and it's hypocritical because, yeah, you're inventing ton, and you can go, no, but that's good when I do it. Yeah, but that's the unfairness part of your attitude where you think you get to lay down everything. You can make new language. I can't even use old language. Though, of course, I can and do use it, but I mean, you won't acknowledge that. You're going to call that a word game. Well, it's, to me, you're obviously in a huge emotional evasion. Yeah, emotional. You're very emotional about it. Evasion mode. Okay. And relativity is about these relationships, and you say there is an absolute position, and that's just your ignorance, right? It's just your total ignorance of. In that case, that's your ignorance of centuries, multiple centuries of scientific knowledge have been discovered, and you're going back to folk wisdom 500 years ago to what everybody knows because you're an ape, and your gut tells you the truth. You're one of those people that believes that. And you're glib, I'm holier than thou because I believe in never reproducing, but fuck those people that are in actual war-torn situations with their actual legs getting blown off that I'm always talking about rhetorically from my home in Inmendham, Wealth County, in the abstract. So when the push comes to shove, it's like, fuck the suffering people. And when it comes time to say who's a really good person, it's you. It's you because you say, well, in the future we will have those suffering people not be born anymore. But right now, fuck them. That's your position. Right? You're on record as that. Just like you were saying to fake Sagan in the stupid part of this video. Um, that's your words. I am going to be critical of them. You're saying them out loud, right? You got off a couple scot-free years and a couple years before that. Various reasons. Mostly because you're incredibly hypocritical about how you expect to be treated and how you treat others. And you're incredibly two-faced about various things like your concern for suffering. Actual suffering in this real world, because we can go back 8 years where you were in an argument with me telling me that starving didn't count as real suffering. No, somehow starving didn't count because that would lead to the immigrant thing, wouldn't it? Because you have a different position based on your gut, right? And your gut tells you that as long as you want everybody to die out in a couple generations, then you don't have to give a shit about any real suffering that's happening right now, right? And you'll say, oh, you do care. You do care. You do care. No, and I'll say, fuck talk from Inmendham. You're not willing to let the people in here. That would obviously help their suffering. And there's a lot of other examples. But just focus on that one. Because you know for a fact, if you let them into the United States and help them out and let them have a camp in Inmendham, they would suffer less. And it would also be really funny because you think you would freak out. Well, imagine all the people that think like you but are rich that would freak out in your little town. So I think it would be funny, and that's exactly where they should be put, next to the most compassionate man in the universe. You say that I'm resorting to words like love. That's a lie, right? Because obviously I never say, oh, because the universe is love. The only thing I say like that, and again, you just make up shit, because, hey, this is like that, and so I can say it's that, like every liar. This is just like that, so I said it was that. No, this is like this. I talk about spirituality. I talk about where does consciousness come from and how early in the history of the universe, or is it there forever? And that gives you a little bit of a woo-woo idea, a grain of salt. But rather than be honest, you got to be a liar. And you say, that I'm going to talk about love and angel pies when I don't really do that. And of course, all my conversants that regularly discuss things with me over the years, they know that's not true. But you have your little following that you think of that way, and you lie to them knowing they will have a false reality that you hope to manipulate them into a particular result. And for you, as an ideologue, that's all a good bet. That all makes perfect sense because, it's kind of Machiavellian. You got to do whatever it takes to destroy everybody else while saving the world. You're psychotic is what I'm trying to say. I think it's obviously psychotic. And you say, I don't account for the price paid, quote, I don't account for the price paid, and you are against immigration, and you have the gall to say because we pissed off Trump voters. But you don't care about the price that was paid. There's suffering people, these refugees. And people are saying, well, we will still have open immigration, but not from war-torn nations. What the fuck? Where are you going to take the refugees from? You're a bunch of uncompassionate assholes that lack empathy. And it doesn't matter whether they called it mirror or absorptive or what kind of neurons. The point is, you see things and you feel things. Now, sometimes the empathy is, it has all the bigotries and stuff filter through it. I'm not saying it's automatically a great thing. It can be a subsidiary source of kinds of bias, since you'll feel more empathetic for your own kid. You might feel more sympathetic for your own team mates and things like this. So what's the point of doing things with you one at a time, Heisenberg's and stuff, if you can't go through any of the terms? You're going to introduce terms, and I will go through them as one of the things at a time, but you won't deal with these other terms? Yeah, I'm not interested, because you can reject a term about locality, but I would have to know why. Your whole rejection of, oh, it's just doublespeak, everything I don't know, it's double. Well, you don't even know what it is. So obviously, when you see a new thing that you didn't invent, you reactively say it's doublespeak, whether you know what it is or not. That I can deduce from the fact that you don't know what it is. And if you do know what it is, and I'm wrong, and you've just rejected it every sentence, and it's like that, it truly is dishonest, right? Because you know what the word is, it has a definite definition that you know, and you want to reject it from the conversation for some reason. What else could it be? You are far from the most compassionate person. Your argument against empathy is idiotic. You are far, 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 far from the most compassionate, even antinatalist. You, when push comes to shove, could give a shit about the suffering in the here and now. I believe you used to, and it was so painful for you, and that many of us have so much sympathy for you because we can tell that there's some aspect of you that really suffers from seeing the suffering of the world. However, now you've grown older, and to escape that suffering, you have your get out of jail free antinatalism card, where by believing antinatalism, it's all our fault 10 times more, and it's all your fault not at all, because you have the right opinion. And people that disagree with you are assholes because they won't make compromises with you, but when they do make compromises with you, fuck them because you disagree on too many things. This is your reasoning process. And you need to work on that. And check your head, Mr. Calling me glib. Okay, not right away. Go ahead, do another 4 hours with Brett Keane, and then come back to me after you've thought about what it really means to be glib. Whether teasing you about the billion-year mark, which is edifying to us all. I know I had to look it up. I thought right away, but then I was like, I better check. Was that glib? Does that mean I'm glib? Or does the fucking time you spend on that bullshit rather than doing something that you agree with people on, right? You're saying talking through your actions, you're saying talking to Brett Keane and answering his questions and all of that, that is somehow more substantive to you than, say, making a joint IRV video with me or a website where we promote that. So you can talk about jokes that are an opportunity for you to misrepresent the universe to your audience, which I'm not really too worried about. I mean, if somebody fell for that, that really is on them. But it doesn't reflect well on you to try. And I always thought you weren't trying, but it turns out you were just so bad at it that it's been a very slow process. And you're trying to get better, I guess. In this case, I don't think that's a personal improvement that is advantageous to the world or even yourself, but it's kind of up to you to be yourself, right? Anyway, you have no sympathy whatever for the objective suffering of Syrians and Syrian refugees. And that's just a fact. That's just a fact you couldn't deny, though you will. You will anyway. And in your universe, maybe that means that it worked. And in Brett's universe, his excuses all absolve him too, Gary. So maybe that's why you should consider yourself, wise to talk to Brett, because there you can co-capitulate on, hey, our insane justifications for our self-centeredness to assuage our own conscience has us blaming the rest of the world for things that, otherwise, yeah, we can see we feel bad about it. And here's how we'll solve that. We'll talk to each other and take each other seriously, right? And complain that the world is glib, right? And your activism, you don't have much to show for it. And I haven't shown on this channel what I have for my activism because that's a separate thing. I've talked about the fact that I've worked on it. And I don't want to compete on whether there's more or less actual accomplishment or how to meter that. That's a waste of time. You got to work on the next things you haven't accomplished, right? However, given how little you've left Inmendham, I think you haven't had as big of an impact on the world. And in terms of being glib, I'm actually carefully using my time. And I believe the public conversation is important, right? And I'm the opposite of glib. When I'm trying to be friendly with you, that's not glibness. But it was a mistake. It was a mistake because it plays into your propaganda nature that you have. That's a dark side of you where you do misrepresent. You say, oh, well, what he thinks is like this, and that's like this, and then that's like this, and therefore he's for the torture, when you know better. And my hope that you would learn better in videos and conversation in general has been, fed by the fact that in person you have a different demeanor. And when there is a blow up, or you'd kick me from your sticker room, or I kick you from a room, it's usually about us getting irate on the issue. Not this, you're lying and you don't really believe that, and you're making up a word because you don't really believe it, but you're trying to do a trick with the words. Yeah, it's pathetic. And that doesn't mean I won't talk to it. Because, like you said, the fake hard case, you were the one that said these things. You said them. All right, let's see if anybody came into the chat. Oh, some people did. Okay, so I'll read them. Pizzador. Don't know what that means. Find me a fucking gate, mate. This is weak sauce. Now, I think Piro Critique has truth in it, but probably don't endorse stuff he's going to say. See that, personal choice, etc. Are these people talking to each other? There's not a complete thought there. We are all an incompetent bunch, somebody said. Fack off, white demon, somebody said. World of fail. Is true one must ally with one what can. Okay. Anyway.